You know Luffy from One Piece? The guy whose arms and legs stretch like rubber and he can smack people across the room from a mile away? Well, imagine if there was a woman in real life who could do that, but only with her neck. No stretching arms, no punching, just her neck. And it only stretches while she's asleep. Creepy, right? Meet the Rokurokubi, a Japanese yokai whose head sometimes decides to go on a midnight stroll while the body stays in bed. And yes, she's been terrifying people in Edo, Japan for centuries. During the day, a Rokurokubi looks completely normal. She could be your neighbor. She could be serving tea. She could be walking down the street, minding her own business. Nothing about her hints that in a few hours, her neck is going to extend across the room like it's made of rubber. That's because the transformation only happens at night, usually while she's asleep. Her body stays perfectly still, but her neck begins to stretch. Sometimes it stretches across the ceiling, sometimes across the house. Some stories say she'd use it to peek at neighbors or scare people for fun. And in other stories, she'd bite people. The word Rokurokubi literally means pulley neck. Fitting, right? Because their neck moves like it's attached to some invisible mechanism, just pulling and pulling without stopping. And in many stories, the woman doesn't even know it's happening. She goes to bed like a normal human, wakes up exhausted, feeling like she's had a strange, restless night. Almost like her neck was living its own life. Here's one of the classic legends in that dramatic story style. In one story, a Buddhist monk casts aside his vows and runs off with a woman. They're happy for a while, living together in secret, but one day, the woman falls sick and her medicine costs all their remaining money. Now, wise men say that you only truly understand the strength of a relationship in times of difficulty. And our monk shows us the strength of this relationship by killing her and taking her money because, well, he didn't ask to be saddled with this life. Later, having cast aside his wife like he did his Buddhist vows, the monk meets an innkeeper's daughter and sleeps with her. Everything seems normal until the middle of the night. While they're in bed, the girl's neck stretches like a long, skinny carrot. Her face slowly shifts into the face of his dead girlfriend. The hatred, the heartbreak, it pours out of her mouth and into his ears. In a surprising twist, the monk realizes what he's done. He regrets it. He goes to the innkeeper and confesses, "Hey, I was sleeping with your daughter under your roof and she turned into my dead girlfriend." With a long neck for some reason. Also, I killed my ex and took her money. The innkeeper listens, nods, says, "Oh yeah, me too." "What?" the monk asks, confused. The innkeeper explains that he also killed his wife, took her money, and used it to open this inn. And unfortunately, karma caught up with him. He was punished by having his daughter become a Rokurokubi. Stories like this weren't just horror stories. They were lessons about karma, about selfishness, about the consequences of your actions, sometimes stretching across generations, literally. There's also a type called nukakubi, where the head detaches completely and flies around at night, flaps its little ears, eats bugs, maybe bites someone, then returns to the body in the morning. The person wakes up completely normal, unaware of all the chaos that happened while they slept. What makes Rokurokubi so terrifying isn't violence, it's the secrecy. They live among humans, blend in, laugh, talk, cook dinner, and no one knows what happens after they fall asleep. Imagine your neighbor or coworker is one. You sit next to them, smile, chat, and then, at night, their head starts creeping across the room. That's nightmare fuel. Even today, Rokurokubi remains one of the most memorable yokai in Japanese folklore. Not because they were violent, not because they were scary like a ghost jumping out of a closet, but because they looked completely human until night came. And when night came, well, let's just say you'd never look at a sleeping woman the same way again. If you're interested in more stories about Japanese culture, history, and folklore, you'll probably enjoy what comes next.